Welcome back, everybody. I am Zach Shelley, and this is Management Unfiltered.
And I'm Kirk Teachout. And today we are going to be talking about getting rid of advertising costs. so, okay. So getting rid of advertising costs. And I know Matt's going to listen to this, and I'm going to love it. I just wish I could see his face when he hears it for the first time. But so something that's kind of unique about our practice is that we really don't spend hardly any money on advertising. And there's a difference between marketing and advertising, right? So advertising is more external marketing, digital marketing, choosing where you want to spend your money with, like, the local school, advertising your practice. Marketing is a little different, right? So marketing is more or less like, okay, how do we present ourselves with our brand? How do we, what do we put up in our office signage wise? What's on the outside signage wise, and kind of, t-shirts, different things. So there's a difference between advertising and marketing. So I want to focus on more how to get rid of advertising and or just lower the cost, right? So I'm going to lob it back to you, Zach, and say, what are your thoughts on that so far?
So when it comes to marketing and advertising, I'm going to lump those together a little bit. That's just my style, but I get your separation in that, and there is a bit of a difference. I think every practice has its own unique situation depending on what type of market they're in. You're, if I'm not wrong, in a more rural area, correct? Whereas we're kind of the same but different. We're pretty saturated in our area, but we are also a unique practice. We kind of have a unique area where we live. So each practice is going to pose a different challenge on how to infiltrate the market and make themselves known. We took an approach for many years where we didn't use any marketing agencies at all, and we didn't need to. But there comes a point in your practice when you need to grow to the next level. But I will say we did advertise to local schools and community events, but we got really intentional with those to where we're super cost effective to bring patients in.
No, yeah. I mean, and that's more or less the focus, right? And, you have different phases of growth. And I love the phrase, if you're not growing, you're dying. But you have to be intentional, right? You can't just kind of throw money into the market, because most of the time practices don't have a lot of just kind of fluff income, right? Or fluff revenue to kind of throw out. I know there are metrics we could go over as far as, like, what does advertising cost look like on your P&L and kind of what percentages, but you just got to really be intentional, right? So for instance, I just wrote a check to a patient that is head of the bass fishing team for our logo on a bass fishing shirt for a local high school. Do I think I'm going to see a return on that? Probably not. But it's a patient, right? We want to support our patients as well because they support us, and they're traveling the nation fishing. Not, the best use of funds necessarily, and I'll admit that, but still, yet we're supporting a patient, right?
And let me pause you there for a second, Kirk, because you're saying not necessarily the best use of funds, because people are going to look at that and be like, why are you investing in bass fishing and you're a dentist, right? Like you have a dental practice and you're investing in fishing. One, I love fishing, so I'm all for it. Two, people will be like, well, Kirk, why don't you just put your face on a billboard and say, look at this beautiful smile. Why don't you come in and see us, right? But those type of investments are so important if you want your practice to grow in your community. And that's one thing we've figured out in our practices. We sponsor all of our local schools teams. Like, we do football, we do cheerleading, we do tennis, and we're so embedded and involved. But what this turns into, and something that Kirk absolutely loves for his practice, is referrals. You get these patients that constantly see your name in the community. And these investments are so minimal compared to, integrating a larger plan. So when you have these practices that you're trying to grow, likely your numbers aren't where you want them to be. Your profitability is not where you want it to be. Your materials and cost of goods sold and everything is not in line. So your percentages are much too high. And that's what we're talking about. You might not have that ability to spend $5,000-$10,000 on marketing in order to grow your practice. So the first way you can stab is infiltrate your community and figure out ways that you can implant your business and your brand into your people that are actually going to come see you. And not necessarily will that bass fishing tournament shirt actually get one patient in the office because somebody saw your logo out in, California, but more so that patient saying, hey, my dentist invested in me. Like, this is where I go. And then that patient's parents, and family can all start referring patients to you because they see you actually care of investing in you and your community.
For sure. And that's more or less where the return comes, right? It's not a you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's the investment of, hey, let's get it. I love your kids. Let's see what we can do together and in the community and pour into the local community. Because, even though we have a good, healthy number of new patients every single month and spend very little on advertising, I say zero, but it's because it's very inconsequential compared to what, if you're working with a marketing agency, what that looks like. But, we'll sponsor this here and there. Obviously your website is advertising as well, but you try to be intentional on, okay, how can we brighten somebody's day by investing in their kids? How can we be, I used to use State Farm as as kind of a, exactly, like an example, because they spent like $1.5 million a day, right, just to be present, right, in people's lives. So if you can now just sponsor the local football team, right? So I get those all the time. And we used to do that all the time because nobody would advertise. No dental office would do anything in the community. So I was like, okay, cool. So what can we do there? We put our logo on every single cup that was coming out of the concession stand. We were on every single ticket that everybody had. So once again, it's not about, there's our logo on the ticket. Like that's not what matters. What matters is that we're present in the back of their minds. And so naturally when they think, oh, I need a dentist. Wait, I had that ticket. I have that cup that's sitting in the cabinet and my kids use all the time, right? Who is this? And so they give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a difference, Kirk. Like you made the point before we started recording. Kirk's practicing about 60 new patients in their practice a month. We see about 360 to 380. And that's like right now at our growth point where we need to be. That's our sweet spot that we want to continue to see that massive growth because that's what we're trying to do. But before for 2 years, like we were capped at like 240, 250. And that's what we integrated a marketing agency to push us to the next level. So there are ways. Before, all we did was invest in our community. We've done movie nights. We've done big truck days with our pedo practice, completely free events, but we figured out how to make these events to partner with the city to utilize as much resources as we can from them and then put in our money on the back end. And we'd spend $1,500 for this event and we'd have 500 people show up to a movie night. And we'd see patients the next day walking through the door like, hey, thank you so much for that. We need to get my kids scheduled. Or the big truck day. We actually had, Kirk, I don't know if I ever told you this. Our first big truck day we did, we had 10,000 people show up.
Are there 10,000 people on Satellite Beach?
Exactly. Yes, there's a lot of people in Satellite Beach, but people came from Palm Bay, from Malabar, from Vieira, all over the county. And they're driving through. There was lines wrapped around for 6 hours the entire time. It was wild. Like we were blown away. And it was an event that was just missing from the community that people wanted. And all we did was just have big trucks like cranes. We had backhoes, we had bulldozers, we had cop cars, fire trucks. People love to just jump on it. So people were driving by, and it doesn't even necessarily mean our advertising on that event was done really well. People just saw it and they're like, hey, I want to be a part of that. That looks awesome. Same thing with your dental practice. They see this and they're like, oh, I want that. That person looks so happy, or they told me about that. these are ways too. If you're deciding on dropping in insurance 6-8 months down the road, you can bulk up and get more visibility to get these fee for service patients, so that when you do drop that insurance, you will retain more than you think. It's always how it goes, but that will help buffer to where you might not feel that, or actually see some growth and more revenue after you've dropped your insurances.
Wow, that's crazy. um, I would, man, that's like I've seen like food truck events and ice cream events and snow cone events and stuff, but that big truck event, that's, dude, ooh, you should talk to your buddy who works at the missile place or the airplane place and get jets.
We tried to get the sheriff's helicopter for that event, and we weren't able to because it was being utilized. So that would have been super cool too.
You have a helicopter fly in and land, and that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. So advertising, marketing, it helps you get to the next level. It helps really keep you consistent, right? There are multiple different ways you can go with digital marketing, where you're really pushing a procedure, where you're pushing your brand. There's different ways you can do that. However, we're talking about lowering or getting rid of advertising. So how do we do that? One way that I really focus on this and trying to lower advertising costs, number one, and increase referrals. Like referrals is key, right? We've talked about that already. You have to figure out a way to have a healthy set of referrals. Personally, if you don't have 50% of your new patients be referrals, that's a KPI like I like to track. Like that has to change. You need to be able to get to where your referrals are half of your new patients every single month. And there's ways to track that. But, and the way to track that is, one, you can ask your front desk when they call to say, is there anybody I can thank for sending you our way? So naturally what's going to happen is that patient's going to be like, oh, well, I saw a billboard, or I heard you on the radio, or, oh, well, this patient sent me your way. I really appreciate it. Or I Googled you and I saw your 5-star reviews. There's ways to be able to check in, but in saying, is there anyone I can thank for sending you our way? It's naturally just broaching that question without having, well, why'd you come? In a more thoughtful way.
Why are you at my practice? Why are you
here? Yeah. Why are you here? Oh man. But now that they're in the practice, you've got to nail the patient experience. And we've talked about this already, but it's got to be so smooth, and it's got to be, well, it doesn't have to be smooth, but it's got to be great, right? You've got to make them feel great in the practice. So that way, when they go out, especially if they're a referral, they get to go back to their friend and say, hey, that was a great experience. You were right. And it just reaffirms more trust in the practice and in the community.
As you're saying this, Kirk, let me just say this to everybody. And docs, you are a major portion of this. And then also our front teams are a major portion of this. Your first source of advertising / marketing that is free is the experience that your patient has coming through your practice, how you treat your patient's bedside. Like that is what they are going to remember. That is what they're going to talk about. Because guess what? Nobody loves going to the dentist. But I can tell you, we have so many patients that come through our door that are like, man, this was such a good visit. Like, I hate coming to the dentist, but this was amazing. And like that's going to be your advertising. That's going to be your marketing. That's going to be building your brand and your sense of like pushing more patients through the door is by doing that. Like you said, it does need to be smooth though, Kirk. Like that's that transition, them not waiting in your lobby, right? Like they're not taking too long to get scheduled, keeping things nice and tight, being on time, being greeted with a smile, like all these things. Like you want to lower that cost, like right there, those patients are going to talk to the next person when they walk out the door, like, hey, I just got done with the dentist. Let me just tell you, that was amazing. And people are like, what? I hate going. They're always disorganized in my practice. You should check these people out. Because I'll tell you, anytime I have a great experience, I try to tell somebody, I'm like, oh, my buddy needed this. I'm going to let them know. Like, I dealt with these people. They're amazing. I just did it the other day, ordering plants. right? Like, as funny as that sounds, I need plants for the house. And I told him, I was like, I'll let you know if the guy shows up. It was through Facebook Marketplace, but the guy was advertising through there because guess what? It's free if you put it on Facebook Marketplace as something you're selling. And he showed up on time, quality of what I was looking for, super polite, and did everything I need. And guess what? He got a referral. Now my buddy's ordering from him.
And it's the small things, right? So if we pick apart like what we're saying and really break it down, it's small things. You don't have to do crazy things like a big truck day, right? It's small things that make the difference. So like you said, when the patient comes in, or really when the patient calls, right? Greeting them with a smile on your face, even on the phone, they can hear it, right? Having a pleasant experience even on the phone. Coming into the office, saying, "Hey, Jane, how are you today?" Calling them by name before they even, like, you can look at the schedule and kind of see maybe who's coming in and just say their name, right? And then say their name multiple times. They have a great experience clinically. They come back to the front. And I love this question with all new patients is, how was your experience? Right? How was your experience? And it makes them think. This is the last thing we ask. How was your experience? It makes them think about the process and what they just went through. And they actually regurgitate what just happened, which puts it back on their mind before they go out. So now when they go out, they've already reiterated what experience they had, which was typically positive if you're consistent. And then they're coming out and they're a walking billboard for you for a while, right? Because of how good it was. So naturally, when you do that, and then you can have like care to share cards and different things, but honestly, those small things make a bigger difference than any billboard, any card that you have, any incentive that you may have for new patients with referrals, simply because it's just you. It's your genuine self and your brand. And your people want to be a fan of that brand and champion it and want to naturally grow it together and be a part of that culture.
Patients want to connect. They want to feel valued. They want to feel heard. They want to feel like, man, this is my practice I go to. But also, people love to brag about who they go to and why it's the best of what they are a part of. So, like, if you make it to that point, like, you're going to have your patients wanting to share with everybody because they feel like they're at the best dental practice in the area. Does that make sense? And like when you make it to that point and they're able to brag about it, it's like you're getting all this free advertising and marketing at almost zero cost. Like you're not spending anything because people are going out there doing it for you.
That's how you lower your advertising costs, right? That and chip clips. I just recently got chip clips for our new patient bags. Make sure they have magnets on them because they throw them up on their fridge. But no, I mean, it's just trying to focus on referrals. I would say the next action step for anybody listening to this is really nail down your new patients on where they're coming from. Try to figure that out. And then track, because not only does our front team, ask that question, right? But we also have the doctors ask that question. Is there anyone I can thank for sending you this way? Right? So it's another way for them to be able to talk up their friend that sent them that way, or say, "Oh man, no, your Google reviews were awesome, so I wanted to come here." Or I've heard in the grapevine, like, this is what it is. Or I saw you on that cup at a football game, or whatever it is. And start tracking where your new patients are actually coming from. Just put it in the note. Have somebody go back through and say, okay, here's where it is. And try to get to that 50% referral metric. Because it makes all the difference. Because naturally, if that person was referred, then they're probably going to refer somebody else. And it's just going to be this really nice cycle. Now, this is a long game. This is not something that's going to help your new patient numbers necessarily next month. But if you do this continually, then it snowballs into where now 80% of all of our new patients are referrals. So now we hardly ever spend money on advertising. I don't sponsor a ton of stuff like I used to because there's no reason to. I'm at max capacity with our office unless we built a bigger office, which I know you guys went through that phase too. So like when you build a new office and you're growing and you have the space and you've done all the things to really maximize, then hey, let's get a marketing company in here. There are great marketing companies out there that can do great things, but depending on where you are, let's try to get the referrals first. Let's try to get the low-hanging fruit and really grow that culture and fan base in our practice that really alludes to, okay, let's send everybody that we know to this practice in the community.
And that's the thing is, where are you at in your practice? Are you trying to maintain, like Kirk, where you're at? You're at your sweet spot, right? Like you're not trying to increase that to 100 referrals and new patients. You're not trying to create it to 200. Like you have to titrate it to where it's most beneficial to you and your practice of where you stand. So like for us, we're trying to get more and more. Like we could probably handle 400 new patients. Like and then like we're gonna say, okay, we can't do any more. So you have to figure out what you're gonna put your dollars into and your energy into in order to get there, and then also maintain it so you don't have these super high months and then a low month and inconsistent growth. You want to create it to where you can continually get it to where you want and then maintain so that your practice doesn't die. So there's ways of like, hey, maybe we need a little less visibility, so we're going to still invest in these areas, but maybe not as much. We might not sponsor both teams. We're going to do one this year. Maybe instead of doing 4 events this year, we're going to do 2. So we're still in the community, but we're not spending quite as much, and we're not trying to push as hard. So like you really got to make sure that you know where you're at, what you're wanting to do, and be intentional about it. Because, that's exactly what Kirk is saying. You can't just go into it blind. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to do this for a little bit and then stop. Like there has to be a way of maintenance, but you also have to know your practice and know where you're at to know where you need to be.
For sure. Well, Zach, is there anything else that you can think of before we get off here?
Kirk, I would love to see you on t-shirts, on coffee mugs, billboards. There are very creative. I'm really good at getting Kirk to just laugh, which is a lot of fun. And he's showing a mudge. No way. I love it. I love it. I need one of those. You save one of those for me and give it to me in Texas.
Sounds good.
Be creative. Do things that nobody else is doing. Listen to people that come and talk to you. This is the way to do it as cheap as possible, but get good growth. And we're completely opposite of this right now. Just to be transparent, we're spending like almost $9,000 a month on marketing for our practice, but it's working. But that's what we need right now. Before we spent maybe $500 a month for the first 4 years I was here. So there is a difference in what you're needing at certain times. But be creative. Listen to the people that are pitching and saying, hey, like this event's not going to happen unless we get help. That's the event you want to be a part of. Because guess what? You're going to get so much visibility. You're going to get so much recognition because you're the company that made the event possible. Otherwise, they weren't going to be able to pull it off. So figure out things. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to what your patients are saying. A lot of times your patients are like, hey, I saw this event. It'd be really cool to see you involved in that. Like, listen to them too. Because they're going to come and be cheerleaders for you, just like your team's cheerleaders for you. Your patients are going to do that very, very easily.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, this has been another episode of Management Unfiltered. We appreciate you listening. Leave a 5-star review and what you want to hear in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things. But other than that, I guess, we'll talk to you later and see you on the next episode.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.